Equivalent fractions, what are they? How do we do it? What are some examples? Now the first thing, let's start by looking at the word equivalent fractions. So we know that it's obviously going to be a fraction. And in the word equivalent, I see equa. And equa is my clue to what are they. What are equivalent fractions? They are equal fractions. You change the numerator and the denominator, but it still represents the same value, such as some of the most common ones that we've been familiar with for some time. 1 over 2 is a half. You can also say half by saying 2/4. The number one most important thing to create equivalent fractions is to be fair. What that means mathematically is you must multiply the numerator and the denominator, or multiply the n and the d by the same number. And the reason why I pick fair is because, kids think if my brother gets this or if my sister gets this, then they would hope or expect to also get that same treat or whatever it may be. So when you're multiplying, or when you're taking a fraction such as 6/7, and you change the top by multiplying by 3, you must be fair. You must do the exact same thing to the bottom number. This will then equal our equivalent fraction, which is 18 over 21. And let's look at why this works. When you do 3 top and bottom times 3, you can also show that as a fraction of 3/3. And here is why this works. Because when you multiply the top and bottom by 3 or 3/3, 3/3 is 1. So the reason why equivalent fractions work like this is because you are essentially multiplying it by 1, and we know that 1 times any number is that other number. So let's look at one more example, and then I'll give you a few to try on your own. What if we have 5/9? Okay, and we are going to multiply that by, I want a crazy equivalent fraction, so I'm going to do 11 over 11, which will give me 55 over 99. Believe it or not, 5/9 and 55/99 are the exact same thing, because we can prove it right here, because 11 over 11 is 1, and I know that if I multiply anything times 1, that relationship or that number, it would be the same. So this keeps our relationship between the numerator and the denominator. Now let's do a few practice problems to make sure you have this down. All right, I have a few fractions here, so let's just list a few equivalent fractions here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk you through what I'm thinking and what you could be thinking. Again, you could also hit pause, try this out, and see if your answers and my answers match up. So 1/3, if I multiply top and bottom by 2, I know that I can turn that into 2/6. If I do 1/3 and go times 3, I can make that 3/9. And one more, what if I do times 4? That would be 4/12. So there you go. I just listed 3 equivalent fractions for 1/3. Now let's look at 2/5. Same thing, multiply top and bottom by 2s. That's going to give me 4/10. If I go 2/5 times 3s, top and bottom, 6/15. And if I do 2/5 times 4s, that would be 8 over 20. Moving down to 6/7. 6/7, I'm going to do the same thing. 6 times 2 is 12. 7 times 2 is 14. 6 times 3 is 18. 7 times 3 is 21. 6 times 4 is 24. 7 times 4 is 28. You can see as long as I do the same to the top and the bottom, it's going to work. And our last one, 8 times 2 is 16. 11 times 2 is 22. 8 times 3 is 24. 11 times 3 is 33. And 8 times 4 is 32. And 11 times 4 is 44. All right, now I have three three fractions we're going to look at, are these equivalent? We're going to write yes or no. So let's start with 4/5. 4/5. Is that equivalent to 9/10? So I'm looking, what can I multiply to get 5 times 10? I know I can do 5 times 2, but is 4 times 2 9? No, so that would not work. It actually looks like they added 5 to the top and bottom, and now changing them by adding the same number to the top does not make an equivalent fraction. So this is not equivalent. Look at 3/5 and 6/10. How do I, let's see, I do times 2 here. Times 2 also works. So yes, these two are equivalent. And our last ones, let's see, we do 1 times 3 gives me 3, and 8 times 3, no, that's not 32, that's actually only 24. So again, this is not equivalent. So equivalent fractions, quick recap, they're equal fractions, and as long as you're fair, as long as you multiply the top and the bottom by the same number, you will have equivalent fractions. Hope this helps.